stand on Roswell, and he grew up in the Roswell area. He said there was absolutely no question whatsoever that it was an extraterrestrial spacecraft that crash landed. Might have been shot down, incidentally, in New Mexico.
But what about the Roswell researchers like Kevin Randall, who are now saying, listen, after some more information and evidence has come to light, it seems, and I now believe, that it wasn't a UFO, it was a mogul balloon.
Well, yeah, there have been those accounts, of course, from the very beginning, and the Air Force has put out no less than 3 major reports in trying to put the story to rest once and for all. But it keeps on popping up. I mean, I myself do believe that it was an extraterrestrial spacecraft, and Edgar Mitchell actually sat in with members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which he had access to, and one of the members of the staff told him in answer to a question that yes, that they did have what adds up to what amounts to the ultimate evidence of UFO visitation to Earth.
If Bill Clinton could not have a presidential affair in the White House, the most secure piece of real estate owned by the United States government, without the whole world knowing, within a matter of, a year, maybe at the most? Yeah. How is it possible that a cover-up of a UFO with extraterrestrial life is still being maintained?
Well, I know what you're saying as far as ultimately it is still being maintained, but of course the leaks, there are profound leaks these days, and the number of witnesses testifying in Washington, for example, at this mock hearing that was chaired by 5 or 6 former congressmen was stunning. You know, there were a lot of people, and they were saying really amazing things. So the cat is out of the bag. Information is coming forward, but true. There has not been an ultimate statement about visitation.
One of my biggest questions, Mike, and maybe you can help answer this, is all the information that is coming from members of the military, whistleblowers, who are breaking their allegiance, basically, breaking the oath. Wait a sec, Mike. You know, and they're also going against the oath that they took. How can we take anything they say as serious?
Well, these guys, first of all, have all the ones that are on these videotaped depositions have all said that they are willing to testify before Congress if granted presidential immunity. You know, a lot of these guys are mostly, they served at the Pentagon in the 60s and 70s. A lot of these guys are pushing 80 and more. And they feel that they don't have very much to lose at this point. And, of course, the more people who come out of the closet on this issue, the more others are willing to come out.
Mike, talking about presidents and talking, you know, we talked briefly about George Bush Sr., we talked about Jimmy Carter. But what role did Bill and Hillary Clinton play in something that you call Aliengate?
Yeah, well, this has been something. Actually, I leaked the story about Lawrence Rockefeller, the late billionaire philanthropist here in New York,
right?
Who was pushing an initiative with the White House, with the Clinton White House, to open its files specifically about Roswell. And this wasn't just, you know, I mean, this was not an amateur production. He actually had some of the witnesses from the 60s and 70s who worked at the Pentagon. He had them all lined up. He sponsored meetings, even at his ranch in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where later, by the way, the Clintons vacationed for a week, and Rockefeller made a large contribution to his presidential re-election campaign and wanted to talk to them and bring them on board. And Hillary got up one morning when Bill was still asleep, and she said to Rockefeller, please don't bring this subject, even though they were being entertained and they were his guests, please don't bring this subject up again. And then later, Bill explained to Rockefeller that this is something that's like, you know, political quicksand, and he was afraid to get too heavily involved. Ironically, though, when he first came into the White House, UFOs were one of his biggest concerns. In fact, there were exactly two. One was who was responsible for shooting Kennedy, and the second was the truth about UFOs. And Webster Hubble, who was later indicted, of course, at that time, he asked Webster Hubble, who was his golfing buddy, to go when he went to be an assistant under Janet Reno at the Justice Department to investigate for him.
When you look at the big picture, it seems that the UFO phenomenon has been kind of a burr in the seat of many of those who have sat and lived in the White House. But when we look at the real big picture, why do the extraterrestrials not just make their presence known once and for all? Land on the White House lawn, land on Parliament Hill in Canada, land in front of Big Ben or the Buckingham Palace in England, and so on and so forth.
Well, Rob, I think that may very well happen, and sooner than we think. It's sort of a tip-off, and the way I look at it is what happened in less than a year ago, adjacent to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, where all the three religions come together, literally, and there was a UFO, a very bright light or object that came down on the horizon, was photographed by at least 4 or 5 different cameras from somewhat different positions, including the weather camera, which takes images every 10 seconds, as well as video cameras and cell phone cameras. And so there's no doubt that this thing came down and that it wasn't a normal craft. It came down to the horizon, then shoots up very rapidly, straight back up, and then you see an explosion of maybe about a dozen red lights, and then they're all gone. I think that as we are more open to having contact, so that we don't freak out, you got to realize that we're dealing with intelligence. Scientists estimate that extraterrestrials, regardless of where they may come from,
you go on, Mike.
That these extraterrestrials could be, 100,000 times more advanced than us. And let's say they were just 10 times more advanced than us. That's a big culture shock. That's a lot to digest.
Mike, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation. Mike Luckman is our special guest, a good friend of the X-Zone. His website is cosmicmajority.org. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We'll be back on the other side of the news with Mike Luckman. Don't go away.
I'm in love with the Mary, and I'm chilling in no disguise.
Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365. You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com.
I made love to an alien near Roswell last night. We strolled along together in the pale moonlight. I had a funny feeling that something wasn't right. I made love to an alien last night. When she gripped my hand, I was feeling mighty fine, but her fingers with mine would not intertwine. When I bent down and gazed into her eyes, they were big as donuts and blacker than the sky.
And welcome back, everyone. Mike Luckman is my special guest this hour, www.cosmicmajority.org. And just for those of you who have been asking again, Mike and I started talking about Contact in the Desert. It's going to be from August the 9th until August the 11th. For more information, visit www.contactinthedesert.net. Mike, thanks very much for joining us. Always great talking to you, Mike. We talked briefly about Rockefeller. Now, there are those who believe that Rockefeller is part of the New World Order. Do you buy into that?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, Lawrence Rockefeller is no longer with us. He passed on some years ago. He was the most liberal of the four Rockefeller brothers. He was the oldest of the brothers. David, if you're talking about David Rockefeller and you're talking about the New World Order, I think that we have things to be concerned about. I'm not privy to that information, but I consider it. But Rockefeller is something seriously to be concerned about. But Lawrence Rockefeller, as I say, there was. I don't think that there was anything devious in the way that he was approaching this subject. He was very serious about the paranormal and UFOs, and really wanted to get to the bottom of the UFO situation, starting specifically with Roswell. And as I say, it wasn't just an amateur attempt. It was very well coordinated, and he had these people all ready to go, these former military people, if President Clinton at that time granted them presidential immunity so that they could testify.
Why is that still a possibility for the people to testify if they went to President Obama and made the same deal? Absolutely, and we've made that offer. I mean, at least indirectly, that offer has been made, and I would certainly be in favor of anything that could be done along those lines. With the experience you have, Mike, and with the people that you've talked about and talked to about the UFO connection, the ET connection, the members of the military that you've seen their videoed testimonies, do you believe in your heart of hearts that these visitors hold a threat to humanity?
No, I don't think that they hold a threat to humanity. I would never say flatly that there is no possibility that some of the beings out there and some of the beings out there might not be friendly. I mean, you walk around in New York City and not everyone on the street is friendly.
Yeah, that's true.
But if they had wanted to take us over, they certainly could have a long time ago. I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah.
And they seem to have played a vital role in our development as well. So I don't think that that's the problem. I think that as the environment continues to decline, and it's doing so rapidly, that there will be more of a likely or possibility anyway of making contact. And many of whatever the UFO abductee phenomenon might be about, and I've met a lot of UFO abductees in the New York metropolitan area,